As probably one of the biggest promoters in boxing, does your phone ever stop?
Never. Never. I have to stop it.
But then, how do you do that and then like multitask and do everything else at the same time? Because you come across as somebody that likes to do about 500 things at once.
Is this actually a real interview?
Well, we're talking.
Okay. Say that me and Frank Smith weigh the same. So
interesting.
I got accused of beating up this little, I think Frank Warren called him a little fat kid or something. But, and by the way, we could have done this show with Joshua BUATSI against someone and Craig Richards against someone. How boring. Like, put them in with, like, we've made a lot of mistakes like that in the past where we haven't been able to get the guys together. Now there's more. After that face-to-face, did a little part of you think, I want to take this guy out? And he went, no, I don't believe him. Then steps up and fights Dimitri Bivol. Now, after last week, that defeat, 115-113, looks really good for Craig Richards. And he didn't believe in himself. And people say, oh, yeah, but that wasn't the best Dimitri Bivol. Well, you could say then that wasn't the best Canelo Alvarez last week.
You know, as probably one of the biggest promoters in boxing, does your phone ever stop?
Never. Never. I have to stop it.
But then, how do you do that and then like multitask and do everything else at the same time? Because you come across as somebody that likes to do about 500 things at once.
Is this actually a real interview?
Well, we're talking.
Okay. It's really rude. I'm really rude with my phone because like I'll be at a table and someone will be talking to me and I'll go, yeah, and I think they're thinking, but you can't. It's not a business where you can give it 2 hours and like if there's a deal to be done, you can strike then. You can't wait. So it does make you unpopular it does make you unsociable, but part of the sacrifice. It's the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
And that is a good way to start October Red Boxing here with Eddie Hearn, CEO of Matchroom Boxing. Chairman?
CEO is Frank Smith. I don't want to take his thunder. You know what I mean?
I stand corrected.
He loves that. He loves that. Yeah, he got the cards made and everything. You know, like he's got the cards made himself. No, he didn't.
Does he also like you beating him up in the ring as well?
I would just like to say that me and Frank Smith weigh the same. So
interesting.
I got accused of beating up this little, I think Frank Warren called him a little fat kid or something. But don't fat shame people. It's not very nice, is it? But he does weigh the same as me. So in boxing, if you weigh the same, it's not my fault he's half my size. You've seen his legs? Massive.
No, I haven't seen his legs.
Yeah, you wouldn't have. But if you watch it back, big old tree trunks, you know? That's why he's got such a great chin.
People often say I've got tree trunks as well, but moving on.
Okay.
Moving on, we're going to talk about this card Saturday. I am super excited about this because it's a domestic. I get really passionate about domestic fights. Putting on such a card that this is a fan-friendly fight. We want to see this.
Yeah, we do, and it means a lot to the fighters. I think it means more. You know, and by the way, we could have done this show with Joshua BUATSI against someone and Craig Richards against someone. How boring. Like, put them in with, like, we've made a lot of mistakes like that in the past where we haven't been able to get the guys together. Now there's more money floating around. You can say to the guys, like, I don't think that it would have necessarily been both guys' first choice to fight the guy from the same area, like a domestic guy, you know, we want a world title fight, we want this. But then it's like, look, people want to see this fight, so I'm going to pay you for it. Well, that's not enough money. Well, I'm going to give you more. And in the end, they go, it's a bit like Liam Smith against Anthony Fowler. Yes, you pay them up the money, and what a great night that was, you know? So we need to make more fights like this, but they've got to be willing to take it, and they've got to believe they can win. They both believe they can win. Now, I saw Joshua BUATSI talking to you. I don't believe Joshua BUATSI. I don't want to fall out with him. But when I said to him, after that face-to-face, did a little part of you think, I want to take this guy out? And he went, no, I don't believe him. Like, he's a very humble, respectful kind, but he's also a prize fighter, and he's vicious, Joshua BUATSI. And I think he wants to do a job on Craig Richards, to be honest. And I think Craig Richards fancies the job. And that's been one of Craig's downfalls in the past. He hasn't believed in himself because he hasn't had the backing and the support of me, really, because he didn't come with that same amateur pedigree, so you don't get as much attention. And by the way, Joshua earned that attention because of what he did in the amateurs. It's just a really intriguing fight. And it's like when it's the local rivalry, when it's the two Brits, it's different things. It's like Peter Sims, Tony Sims, you know, Virgil Hunter now, AJ, 258. Like, it means more. They're desperate to win.
We talk about that meaning more, and we mentioned, obviously, Craig was one of them that sort of like said, no, I want world level. I want people to come to me. But then there was something about this, because we were talking about years ago, Joshua Boutsi versus Anthony Yarde. That was the fight that was in everyone's mouth. Yeah, when's this going to get made? And then that by the by, and then Craig started to creep through, started to win fights, and then here we are today.
Well, I think we did everything we could to make the Yarde fight, and we made them a huge offer. But this fight, you know, Yarde's a great fighter, so is Craig Richards. Yarde lost for a world title, so did Craig Richards. And in two good fights, two close fights as well. I think Craig Richards' win over Shakan Pitters, like that was the big statement where he went on an away show, dominated every round, knocked him out. Like that was a really good win. Then steps up and fights Dimitri Bivol. Now, after last week, that defeat, 115-113, looks really good for Craig Richards. And he didn't believe in himself. And people say, oh yeah, but that wasn't the best Dimitri Bivol. Well, you could say then that wasn't the best Canelo Alvarez last week. You can't discredit a fighter when they win, because sometimes the opponent has put up a great fight. And I think Craig will look at that fight and go, wow, like I underperformed in that fight and I could have won it. And now Bivol's better than Joshua Boutsi at the moment. So therefore, and if Craig has that belief, it's going to be a tough fight for Joshua Boutsi. But Boutsi is excellent, you know, and he's a very vicious, dangerous fighter. And I think it's going to be a great fight.
Isn't that the exciting part of it, though, that we just don't know how this is going to turn out? Like you said, when Craig fought Bivol, it was like, okay, Craig was written off.
He was, yeah.
And then we saw Bivol's face at the end of it, extremely marked up. Bivol said, bloody hell, he was actually all right.
Yeah.
Craig was like, damn, maybe he should have done more. And then he goes on to fight Canelo. Bivol's not got a mark on him. Obviously, he's got his arms bruised up. But then it always changes the dynamics, and that's what we love about boxing, because of the unpredictability.
I think with this fight, it's the first fight for a while you go like, normally in a fight you go, Boutsi by stoppage, Richard by points. But actually in this fight, I don't know if Boutsi can stop Richards. And Craig looks like he's punching really hard. But I don't know the means of victory, and that's interesting within itself, or how a fight will play out. Sometimes you go, oh, it'll be cagey early. Josh might come out like a train. I actually think he will. But yeah, there's a lot of intrigue on so many different levels.
One thing I did like that you said is that you could have got these fighters on the same card to fight different opponents, but you said something key there. You learned, you know, from making mistakes in the past, you know, that isn't necessarily the right way to do it. Somebody at your level in boxing is able to stand there and say, you know what, I didn't do that right. Let's go back to the drawing board and do it a different way.
Yeah, and a lot comes down to money, because obviously it's a business and you're trying to create a show that makes money, or certainly doesn't do money. And then obviously with our deal with the Zone, and you got a bigger budget, you can afford to say to these guys, okay, how much do you want for this fight? Well, if you give me this, okay. And you reach a point where the guys are looking at it now. I mean, Craig Richards, you know, Joshua Boutsi's been on great money for a long time because he's a star. But for Craig Richards, this is probably double his biggest ever payday, and that goes above the Bivol fight. And that's nice. Like, Craig Richards is going to get something out of boxing. If he wins, he's going to get a lot more out of boxing. But even through this fight, he can buy himself a house. You know, he can create a future for himself. And for where these kids have come from, boxing should be applauded for that, and we should showcase that to the community and say, look how these guys changed their life. Even if, you know, when you start boxing, and for what boxing can do for you as an individual, you don't have to become a world champion. Like, it can change your life away from boxing, just the way you operate in life. But it can also, if you do have ability, it's one of those sports where there is no barriers. You know, you can go into an amateur boxing club. If you've got ability, you go through the amateur system, you start winning tournaments, you start fighting in the ABAs, you get into the GB team, you go to the Olympics, you turn pro. It's all there for you if you've got the ability. And, you know, these are two kids from similar backgrounds, similar areas, who have gone on and achieved a lot in life.
We talk about that boxing ability. You know, there's fighters out there, young up-and-coming fighters. Maybe they are on Team GB at the moment. Maybe they're on the small hall circuit. What is it that attracts you to a fighter to say, yeah, I like that person, I want them to come with us?
it's to feel like a fan would feel, which is, wow, they're exciting. I like them. I want to see them again. It's a sparkle in their eye. It's wanting to be part of that journey as well. You know, and there's so many great fighters out there, so many that have slipped through the net that if they would have had backing, may have gone on to become world champions, etc. But you can't cover all bases. But it's just like a spark. It's the same as if someone comes for a job interview. Yeah. You just know, you sit down with them and you go, I like this individual. You know, I think they'd be good to work with. And that's the same when you sit down with a fighter. Something about this kid. You know, it's like when Katie Taylor came into my office. I didn't want to do women's boxing. And I sat down with her, I was like, wow, I'm motivated. I feel great energy. So, and selfishly, I want that great energy because that's what I want in my life. I don't want to, you know, being around winners and great people and great fighters makes me feel good as well. So it all works out for everyone.
That achievement, touching on Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, what a performance for women's boxing. I know everyone says you shouldn't say women's boxing, just call it boxing, but I'm a woman and I'm proud to say that was women's boxing. It was a beautiful match, and what I liked is the lead up, the fact that you got in the two MMA, both of Puerto Rican and of Irish descent. I didn't think I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching it thinking, how's this going to go down? And amongst the hardcore boxing fans, they go, but actually think about what it's doing to the wider audience. You go onto those WWE stars, they've got 7-8 million followers, they're posting about it. And all of a sudden, and that's what happened for that fight. It was just eyes, attention, what's this, curiosity. And then on the night, how big was it that the people that tuned in to have a look saw that? You know, so that's when the momentum is, you know, and that's massive, and that has repercussions across all women's boxing, from the elite level, Chantel Cameron and these girls, to the grassroots level, and the young girls who watch that and went, wow, I can do that. And again, they don't have to become a world champion. Confidence, respect, manners, discipline, mental well-being, physical well-being. These are all the things that boxing can bring you, but people don't see that because they're so far removed from the community. So, like, you talk about what I'm on Good Morning Britain tomorrow to talk about what boxing can do in the community. But the people you need to convince have no idea, and they won't go and see it. All you have to do is walk into an amateur boxing club, look at the kids that are in there, and think about what they would be doing if they weren't in there. You know, I've got two daughters. I took mine to the Brentwood ABC last week. I had a great time. They were knackered. Right, running around all night, press-ups, hitting the bag, everything. And I just thought, and by the way, when they were talking, running around, an old coach who was about 70 went, quiet, no talking in the boxing gym. And they went, oh, blimey. I thought, that's the first time you've listened, you know? I'll say that at home. You answer back to me. So this is where you learn respect and discipline. And, you know, it's very, very powerful.
It is, and that is a beautiful word to describe it. Boxing is powerful. The influences that it gives to people, like you said, about those basics, about the discipline, timekeeping, respect, manners, being able to take instruction. There is so much that the fighters do to get in the ring that is valuable in life itself.
Absolutely. And, you know, we need to keep pushing the government, politicians, but they've got to see it. There's a difference. Not just boxing, sport, actually, because the foundations, I feel, and the fundamentals of life are built through sport, competition, winning, discipline, respect, you know, teamwork, you know, individuality, pressure, you know, all these different things. And the problem is now with the younger generation, they're not playing enough sport. You're like, the best thing for my kids when I say, I'm playing cricket today, I'm playing netball today, I'm going to boxing training. Because if not, you're sitting at home on Instagram looking at a picture that's not even real, going, or you're reading comments of negativity and all this kind of stuff. It's a bad world that we're going towards. Like the good old days of, right, I'm going to have a game of football, or I'm going to play hockey, or I'm doing this. That's where you're going to learn. So much more powerful, actually, even than education. But, you know, hopefully people can see it.
Hopefully they will, but what I want to ask you as well is you're an entrepreneur. You're someone that's not afraid of taking risks. Obviously, you partied with Sky Sports as your broadcaster, and then you partnered with DAZN as your main broadcaster. There is rumbles within the community that DAZN, the numbers, the views, but my argument, and I have had several conversations about it, is our generation as such are sort of like falling off the other end, and we are the terrestrial, the TV. We come from the 5-channel generation, if anybody can remember that. But kids, say 20 downwards, everything is an app. Everything is application. Projection for DAZN. Like I said, times are changing. Projection for that DAZN app to become the forefront of boxing, a main competitor. How do you see that going? And when we talk about in terms of being patient and having that time to let it grow.
It's been 8 months so far in the UK, but people will feed you numbers across social to try and deplete from what we're doing. And the numbers are good, solid. Everyone's over the moon. We're not as big as Sky at the moment, of course, but I left Sky for this. You know, I didn't need to do it. I was so comfortable in that position. I did it for a lot of money, and I did it with a global vision. There is no other opportunity for me globally bigger than there is with DAZN. I'm promoting 50 shows a year in 10 different markets, and we continue our global expansion in those markets with localised events. Sky can't give me that. Sky can give me a good platform in the UK. That's it. No US deal, no Australian deal, no Mexican deal, no Italian deal, no Spanish deal. And that's my ambition. If I was just, I just want to stay in the UK and be a UK promoter, maybe I would have stayed with Sky. But I needed someone that shared my vision. And you're right, streaming is the absolute future in terms of the way people will digest content. The numbers are good, the schedule's great, we're very happy.
Onwards and upwards then for the Matchroom and DAZN working together. It's just something I wanted to get across because, you know, I'm aware that kids love applications. We are not really in a generation that watches television, as it were. Everything is on your phone. So it's just to get across that we have to be patient and let things develop naturally.
Absolutely. And it will. Don't think I wouldn't back the wrong horse.
Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.